Horror movies are like heavy metal music. Both are loved by legions of loyal fans, but neither gets enough respect from the mainstream. Rather than critical review, it's the fans who are responsible for a horror film's popularity and demand in the market. Saw, a wildly popular movie that arguably changed the genre, earned a meager 49% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Even absolute classics like John Carpenter's The Thing were originally panned by critics. Every now and then, though, we enter bizarro world. Sometimes a scary movie manages to sit better with critics than their target demographics. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture here with 10 horror movies loved by critics but hated by audiences. Number 10. The Blair Witch Project. Let's be honest, in hindsight, the Blair Witch Project was original. It wasn't, however, particularly scary. The hype for this was huge, which likely contributed to the disappointing 56% audience score. Critics showed up for the found footage pioneer, giving it a fresh 87%. Critic Lloyd Rose of The Washington Post wrote that The Blair Witch Project was the scariest movie I've ever seen. The film does have ambience, and the disorientation of the cast as they foray deeper into oblivion is convincing. Viewers weren't as convinced. The pace was a bit slow, and some of the tension-building scenes lacked payoff. As one viewer stated on Rotten Tomatoes, "So this is what all the fuss was about?" Number 9. Coming Home in the Dark. Here we find our protagonist couple, Alan and Jill, hiking with their 2 teenage sons. 2 bizarre drifters, Mandrake and Tubbs, confront the family at gunpoint. Mandrake kills the 2 boys and takes the couple hostage. We come to find that this was not a chance encounter. The drifters were once residents in a school for troubled boys where Alan was a teacher's assistant. During this time, Mandrake and Tubbs were abused by the staff of the school. Despite initial denials, Alan admits that he knew of the abuse but did nothing. Critics believe the performances and script were strong enough to warrant a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Society at large wasn't convinced, offering Coming Home in the Dark only 44%. Number 8. Teeth. Where to start with Teeth? It's about a young lady who has vagina dentata, or literal teeth sprouting from her nether regions. Who would guess that critics would rate it a fresh 80%? Not the audiences, who gave it a paltry 45%. Teeth is the story of Dawn, a teen virgin who is a member of her high school's chastity club. Dawn preaches the word of abstinence to her fellow students and walks it like she talks it. All is well until Dawn meets Toby. Dawn and Toby admit a mutual attraction to one another. Dawn agrees to a dip with Toby at a local swimming hole. Now our romantic tale turns bloody. Not surprisingly, Toby had ulterior motives. His attempt to force himself upon Dawn results in a bloody stump where his manhood once was. The idea is original and the acting is commendable. While the film's fresh approach wowed critics, the world just wasn't ready for a man-eating, well, you know. Number 7. VHS 94. VHS 94 is the 4th installment in the found footage horror anthology franchise. This time around, a SWAT team infiltrates an abandoned warehouse. Here they find the remains of what looks like a cult mass suicide along with static-filled televisions. Naturally, one of the TVs begins to play and our anthology begins. The film scored a surprising 90% by critics on Rotten Tomatoes, feeling it was more evenly scary than most anthologies. Fans? They chose the eject button, giving it only 45%. Number 6. Vivarium. Tom and Gemma are a young couple looking to purchase a new home. They inquire about properties with a local real estate agent. Despite the agent's strange demeanour, they agree to tour an available house. The couple find themselves in an antiseptic-looking neighbourhood full of identical houses. The fun comes when they realise they are trapped in this labyrinthian suburb. As the story unfolds, we discover that our heroes have been abducted by aliens and placed in what is essentially a human fish tank. Critics scored Vivarium a solid 72%, praising the social commentary of the film along with the set designs and performances by Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots. The unsettling atmosphere and slow unravelling of the characters, however, failed to hit the mark with audiences. Viewers gave it a dismal 39%. In general, the public didn't connect with watching 2 people in misery for 90 minutes only to have it end on an equally miserable note. Number 5. The Feast. In The Feast, a wealthy and corrupt family arranges a business dinner at their estate for a local businessman and a farmer. When the help, a mysterious waitress named Caddy, arrives, her unnerving presence begins to poke holes in the synthetic fabric of the soulless, affluent family. The feast presents like a horror film, and there is plenty of blood and gore, but tastes more of a revenge tale. The social commentary is put on full display here as we see the perspective of the killer and end up sympathising with her over the narcissistic victims. Overall, it's fun watching these awful people get their comeuppance, but the story falters a bit during the third act. Critics praise the commentary on social caste and their impact, giving the feast a rating of 82%. Not bad for a movie that made just over $8,000 at the box office. The fans only scored it 52%, which is less surprising for a movie that made just over $8,000 at the box office. Number 4. You Are Not My Mother. Made in 2021, this Irish film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival to favourable reviews. It even won the runner-up spot for the People's Choice Award, Midnight Madness. Those in attendance were the only people who chose it, as it garnered a bleak 42% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics stood by the film, giving it a fresh 88%. You Are Not My Mother artfully tackles the trope of someone is not who they are supposed to be. It is the story of Shah, a teen girl who lives a glum existence in an old, dusty home with her disabled grandmother and depressed mother. After Shah's mother, Angela, disappears, she returns not quite herself. She vacillates between giddy and grotesque. Shah begins to understand that something unnatural is happening and it has something to do with her. Shah's grandmother explains that fairies sometimes replace human babies with changelings. She says Shah was a changeling when she was a baby and suspects Angela may be in her changeling form. Feeling like a lower-budget version of Us, You Are Not My Mother's happy ending was not enough to satisfy the viewing audience, with one viewer review stating, "So slow, worst movie ever." Number 3. Relic. Stop us if this sounds familiar. A family's widowed matriarch goes missing. When she returns, that's right, she's not what she seems. In this case, sisters Kay and Sam are left to negotiate the growing horrors that accompany their grandma Edna's return. As things progress, Edna deteriorates physically and mentally while the girls seek to help Edna and stop whatever malevolent forces are at play. Whatever the force is, it leaves a black, mouldy bruise on Edna's chest. The mould eventually turns to rotten flesh, and Edna peels the flesh off, revealing her true form, a rotting corpse that appeared earlier in Kay's dream. In a predictable move, the film ends with Sam noticing a small black mouldy spot on Kay's neck. If Relic were the first of its kind, its audience score may have been higher. It's been there, done that concept left viewers cold, garnering only a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics were more forgiving, believing the cinematography and unsettling story earned a surprising 92%. Despite a powerhouse production team including Jake Gyllenhaal and the Russo brothers, Relic failed to connect with an audience who have already been on too many similar rides. Number 2. It Comes at Night. In a post-apocalyptic world, Paul and his family have survived a cataclysmic disease that ravaged most life on Earth. Believing that more people equals a higher chance of survival, Paul's wife convinces him to allow a wandering man and his family to share their home. The tension of the film lies solely in the gradual mistrust between the families. Like the final act of John Carpenter's The Thing, our gang succumbs to paranoid finger-pointing as their fear of infection mounts. In a commentary on the limits of human compassion, Paul ends up killing the host family, convinced the father was infected by the horrid disease. In true narrative karma, the film ends with Paul and his wife displaying early symptoms of the disease. It Comes at Night often feels like a long straight road to nowhere, and audiences weren't much pleased with the payoff. The film only earned a 44% rating from viewers on Rotten Tomatoes. The experts saw it differently, touting the bare-bones approach and slow-boiled tension as assets, and gave it a very respectable 87%. Number 1. Shadow in the Cloud. With Chloe Grace Moretz at the top of the call sheet and a screenplay co-written by Max Landis, Shadow in the Cloud had some good things going for it. The concept is original and there are some quality monster scenes. Audiences just didn't get behind a film that is equal parts war movie, social commentary and creature feature. Channeling classic Twilight Zone, the bulk of the movie takes place during World War II on a B-17 bomber. Officer Maud Garrett spots a winged gremlin attached to the outside of the plane, but nobody believes her. The secret mission she is on turns out to be Maud sneaking her baby on board in an attempt to flee her abusive spouse. The gremlin eventually breaks into the plane, wreaking havoc and attempting to take the baby. In the final battle, Maud lands the plane, kills the creature and safely escapes with her child as the B-17 erupts in flames. Critics appreciated it as a fun, action-packed genre flick, gifting the film a Rotten Tomatoes score of 77%. Audiences panned the film for being too much sizzle and too little steak. Smart fans derided the technical errors regarding aviation and physics, along with the 80s synth music set to a 1943 background. In some ways too much, in other ways not enough. The end result was a 32% audience score.